Look, when LA CoMotion
Yeah.
and then CoMotion
Yeah.
came, I loved the pun, I loved the philosophy, and I loved the content.
Yeah.
And I loved leadership, by the way. It was something that really, to me, in a place that had always been cutting edge when it came to transportation, whether that was to the heavens
Yeah.
or the skies,
Yeah.
or even on the ground with a red car and then the freeways when they were cutting edge. Los Angeles had kind of lost its way and its vision. And you helped us reimagine, both as Americans, as human beings, as world citizens, but also as Angelenos. How could we take this amazing place with the best weather, the most creative people, the most diverse population, and apply it to a better quality of life? Because in the end, all of us transportation geeks love talking about vehicle miles traveled and first mile, last mile. Normal people just want more time at home, more time to go out, a great neighborhood that they can enjoy.
And not getting stuck in traffic. And
100%.
not getting assaulted by pollution.
And I grew up here in the San Fernando Valley where it was the worst air in America, where it's estimated our lungs were 85% the capacity that they should be for young people growing up then because of smog days that shut us down. All three of my family members, I haven't, knock on wood, got cancer. And there was a cancer cluster because we lived next to two freeways, with leaded gas and
terrible.
And then even unleaded gas. So this was about much more than just, what's the coolest new transportation thing. This was about people.
Yeah. But it's incredible to see sort of, back in 2017 when we moved here, it was Measure M had been passed. The DOT, LA DOT was doing absolutely revolutionary work in figuring out how to use big data and data crunching to better regulate transportation. And there really was this vision that you had of Los Angeles as being the transportation technology capital of the world, which is a formulation we'd liked a lot. And so it was a kind of magical moment. 10 years later, it's extraordinary to see how things have changed largely for the better. I mean, the smog is way down. There's really no smog anymore. We have thousands of autonomous vehicles plying the streets. Micromobility of Lime bikes and bird bikes in a kind of good way now. And of course you have the massive expansion of LA Metro. I mean, who would ever have thought that this world capital of car culture was also becoming a real transit-friendly city. And that will continue. We have this now, this sort of trifecta of mega events happening, which together with the rollout of public transit and all the other technological innovations that are happening, will, I think, change LA in such profound ways in coming years. I mean, how do you see that, Eric?
Well, the addiction hasn't completely ended, but I think we're beginning to see a life after the addiction to the single passenger car, liberated and stuck in traffic. There's actually shackles to the way we have lived for the last few decades. And Angelenos are willing to try and take some patience to change. But I love this opportunity. When I think about the Olympics, in 1932, when that public transportation system was first being built and cars were still relatively new, we took 10th Street and renamed it Olympic Boulevard because it was the 10th Olympiad. And then in 84, we made that same street one way. We took a bus system, imagined a railway system that would be light rail and subway. And I want this to be a moment of that sort of imagination, but we're starting with so much more content. Because you're right, I mean, Measure M was a sea change. The airport is being rebuilt. We've got entrepreneurs delivering things in electric vehicles. Why should a 1 pound burrito be in a 10,000 pound car to be delivered? We're seeing eVTOLs begin to take off, and they'll be in the Olympics. You're seeing new technologies for boring and for tunneling. You're seeing a public commitment too, I think, to integrate, which is the one thing that's really been missing. Everybody's done their narrow lane, but now we're starting to think about the planning of neighborhoods and of transportation systems. And remember, it was in 1984 that the ATSAC system, which was the first computerized traffic light system, came in because of the Olympics, and we were so scared about managing traffic. So we've always taken these moments and said, what's next? And my question for everybody watching this, everybody in power or residing in Los Angeles or a visitor, what do you want to see? And let's do it.
And of course, if one city and one urban area needs to be better knit together, it's surely this vast city, which is to my mind, I've always approached it like, it's more like the Netherlands, a small country than a single city. But, it's such an agglomeration of these individual little cities, also because of the difficulty of getting around. So I think the LA of the future will be, just topographically, sociologically very different because of the changes in the way people and goods move around.
I think that's right. I think, but people really should think about what sort of life they want to have, not what sort of transportation system they want to have. We have many commercial corridors that are vacant, but we have other ones that are completely vibrant.
Right.
And the ones that are vibrant, we have no housing built on top of those corridors with great restaurants and shops and other things, and it would be easy to do in a way that's maybe a smaller unit for somebody starting out that's affordable, that doesn't have a car and isn't mandated to have a car. So much of our zoning said you must have a car and we will build you the spot for it. Instead of we will build a system that allows you to walk down to get what you want, get on a transportation system that'll take you to work. And even for bicyclists right now, I mean, still, I think a lot of people think it's taking their lives into their own hands. And people forget the size of LA. I mean, it's like taking Tokyo without the public transportation system and trying to build out a system.
Quite right.
And I think there's a huge role for the public, but I also think there's a huge role for private innovation. When you think about New York City, when you think about London, those were built by private companies way back in the day. And our public procurement system, I think we've got it down now. It was only 10 years from contract to opening up the extension of the D line on Wilshire Boulevard, our main kind of boulevard down the middle of the city. But that's a long wait.
We've got to speed things like that up, absolutely.
100%. And I think we've got the technology. Innovators are showing us that way. The question now is, can policymakers embrace it?
Well, in some ways, what's interesting about this moment, I mean, from our point of view at CoMotion, is that the huge cutbacks in federal funding to the cities, to LA Metro, to, it's creating a lot of headaches, but it's also forcing a lot of people to think about other ways. Maybe we should look at public-private partnerships as a more efficient way of delivering services or building infrastructure, for example. So I think that's, in some ways, there is a bit of a silver lining to these cuts.
Absolutely. And I think, a crisis forces innovation.
Yes.
But people want a very simple thing. I think they want transportation that's easy, affordable, and safe.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work to get all three.
And if you get those three clean as well.
Yeah, clean would be nice. Clean and safe, we'll put those two together because they often go hand in hand. Metro's doing a great job with ambassadors now because you can't put enough police officers or afford enough police officers, but you can resolve conflicts in a public transportation system. There's also the ability now for people, to go into a Waymo and to feel safe as a woman who's worried about what might happen to her. You can maybe one day put our teenagers and our children even in, secure places that get them across town to their friends. Think about the schlep of parents that defines at least Los Angeles life, my life. If I had a trusted and safe way and I could track that and see it with, a camera in there until they're safely at their friend's house, I do that all day long. And I think, when you can imagine eVTOLs that are the price of an Uber Black per mile, but take a tenth the time, when you have a competition of different systems, as we see right now, maybe even between public and private, or partnerships where private lines link up with public lines. That's actually the history of New York. As some became public, there were still private lines, and it was seamless for the traveler. We can do that. It just is really not a crisis of funding. It's not a crisis of technology. It's a crisis of imagination.
Yeah, but there has to be, different way to do things. For example, you mentioned Tokyo. And the Tokyo Metro is amazing, but it's 5 companies, all private.
That's right.
All profitable, and they run, everything runs on time, and it's clean, etc. But they're allowed to develop stations in a commercial way, and that's where they get the rent, which then subsidizes the, clearly we have to start thinking along those lines.
No question. I mean, it's wonderful to get to now the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, to the edge of Beverly Hills, soon beyond, on our D line. There's nothing in the stations commercial. There's nothing in the plazas besides beautiful public art. And now I know Metro is going to be testing that, but we should be focusing our restaurants, focusing our culture, focusing our, your CVS or whatever, just to come out of the subway, run your errands. We make it inconvenient. We almost create beautiful deserts right now in the middle of a dense city.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
So I think that's being rethought,
Yeah.
which is great. And so, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, look, Los Angeles to me is this weird mix of a dense, big city with some transit and a sprawling suburban type of city. It's east meets west, at least for the United States. And if we can show that it works here, I think we can inspire cities that do have transit systems to reimagine themselves, and those that don't to figure out not just transit, but transportation networks that actually, show us the next 50 years of good life.
Well, that's what my vision for CoMotion always was in here in Los Angeles, is that if Los Angeles could change, any city in the world could change, and it could really show the way in so many ways. So I think what I'm very proud about with CoMotion is the number of people coming to CoMotion every mid-November from around the world, from Europe, from Asia, from Latin America, to see what sort of urban innovation is about firsthand.
Well, it'll be pre-Olympics, so in some ways this is the lead up, and I hope that those urbanists who come, because it's not just transportation professionals who come, it's entrepreneurs, it's urbanists, it's government officials. They can come here and get excited about the next 2 years. When the Paralympic Games and the Olympic Games come here, that's a moment to showcase everything. I mean, when the Rocket Man landed in 1984 in the Coliseum, the Memorial Coliseum, people were like, a human being can fly with a jetpack? Whoa. Maybe we can do something a little more practical, because that didn't take off exactly as the way of getting around town. But if they can see eVTOLs, if they can ride in a tunnel that was just built in 3 months, if they can figure out a way to get their favorite food delivered by a robot that they've never experienced, that will spread, I think, goodness to the world.